Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Rob again with Perfect Spiral Capital. Today we're going to take a little bit different approach and we're going to really just strip things down and we're going to simplify a few things. We're going to look at the difference between conventional finance or conventional financial wisdom, as many of us are taught right from an early age. And we're also going to compare and contrast that with a simplified look at implementation of the infinite banking concept. To get started today, we're going to look at the hypothetical difference between couple A and couple B. Couple A is going to subscribe to conventional financial thought and wisdom, much like many of us have grown up and understand. And then we're also going to look at couple B, which has applied the infinite banking concept. Now, we're going to simplify and say that both of these couples earn $100,000 a year, and they're going to earn that amount of money between age 35 all the way to age 65. Again, we're trying to simplify this and make it as easy to compare and contrast as possible. So we're going to take a look at eliminating a lot of really basic variables and simplifying the process. A couple of things that I want to orient us to before we jump into a couple of visual representations is we're going to look at income broken out into three primary categories. We're going to take a look at the living expenses, which is going to include all of the principal paid on loans. It's going to include all of the food and just standard day-to-day living expenses. We're going to look at savings, meaning that the actual principal amount that gets saved in a person's financial system. And in this case, we're looking at the conventional system versus the infinite banking concept, as we talked about. And then we're also going to look at third-party interest. So we're really kind of breaking all of the income someone has into these three primary categories to look at where income gets distributed, these two independent philosophies, if you will. So for the sake of this example, we are looking at things from a conventional financial situation where someone's saving, or this couple A is going to be saving 10% of their income. And we're going to look at the infinite banking concept as well. In these examples, we are going to highly simplify. And by highly simplify, I mean that the amount of money that the couples save, meaning that base principal, is not going to have any level of investment. It's strictly to look at the distribution of the income that flows through these two couples' financial systems. Before we do that, and before we look at the actual visual examples, I do simply want to reiterate what the infinite banking concept is, because I think most everyone understands the standard run-of-the-mill conventional financial system. I'd like to just reorient what the infinite banking concept is before we jump into some of these examples, so it helps us kind of keep in mind what's really happening as we see these. The infinite banking concept is an expression of creativity, imagination, and control over the banking function in a person's life. And one of the most important areas is that it's taking control or implementing a process of control of redirecting where your dollars flow first and where your money resides prior to and during its use. So after reorienting to the infinite banking concept, let's take a closer look at the conventional financial system that couple A subscribes to, and where that money that they're going to earn over the next 30 years from age 35 to age 65 is going to end up as a result of the conventional financial thought and process. So in this example, we can see that there is roughly $1.65 million that's going to flow through the average couple's financial system, and that's going to go towards the living expenses, like I had mentioned earlier. It's going to go to principal on loans. It's going to go to the day-to-day costs of life, automobiles. It's going to go to food and living expenses and so on. As a part of that, we also have interest that's going to be at play. And if we think back to some of our understanding of the infinite banking concept, and for those of you who maybe are new to the concept, it's that everything in life is financed. A person either gives up the future interest that the money could earn if they pay in cash, or because they don't have the capital, they might be financing and they're going to pay that interest and that finance charge in the form of interest to a third-party bank or financial institution. And that's where we can see this $1.05 million. That's a significant amount of money. And some of you may be asking, that seems really high. Where'd you get that from? Well, that comes from the 35% problem. And that is, if you were to read Becoming Your Own Banker by Nelson Nash, you will see that Nelson did a great job of breaking down different expense types over the course of a person's lifetime and identified that roughly 35% of every after-tax dollar goes to interest in some way, shape, or form in a person's life. So that's where that large sum of money that flowed through this conventional person's financial situation is really going to. And then we also see that $300,000 is the principal amount that's been saved over the course of a person's lifetime. Again, this is simply the base amount that somebody saved, not what they necessarily would have invested it in. So I think it's really important that we understand that difference in this particular situation. Next, we're going to look at the infinite banking concept. And to keep things simple, much like the whole point of this video is, again, to simplify between these two different concepts. All the colors that are used in the graphs are going to be exactly the same, but you're going to see where the money flows a little bit differently when a person implements the infinite banking concept. Now, I will say it is going to take the average couple time to build up their system to finance everything in their lives that needs to be financed. So you're going to see some third-party interest that's still present for this couple over the course of their lifetime, because things don't happen overnight. It's going to take some time for this couple to build up that level of capital. So flipping over to that, we can see that things have dramatically shifted in this example. However, some things are the same in that there's still $1.65 million that have been going toward living expenses for this couple. However, because they have redirected the flow of money in their life into a system that they own and control first and foremost, so their dollars flow into a system they own and control first before they flow out, we now have a situation where they have accumulated at the end of this 30 years roughly $1.09 million. Now again, is this exact? No, but it's generally close of what is possible by utilizing the infinite banking concept. And we can see that they did still have some third-party interest, likely due to mortgages and maybe early on as they're still financing a vehicle or something. However, that has greatly dissipated over the course of their lifetime as their system built up over time. We can see then in this case that there is a dramatic difference between these two examples. In the first example, or the conventional example, we see that couple A had most of their money simply flow through their hands. They had a place to put roughly about 10% of it, but it was locked away. It wasn't able to be utilized. It was put in a position where they're kind of hoping that it's going to deliver a large rate of return or something along those lines in order to fulfill their long-term needs. In the case of infinite banking, what we're doing is creating a reservoir and a place for that money to pool before and during its use, and allowing it to be used while it's gaining and growing at the same time. What I'd like to do is simply just show a quick table with some numbers to give you an idea of what it looks like side by side. We can see that the same amount of money is earned over those 30 years for both couples. We can see that their living expenses are essentially identical. And we can see that the third-party interest that they paid, however, is where all of the difference tends to be made, in that because this couple was able to finance by utilizing the infinite banking concept and funneling their hard-earned capital into a system they own and control, that they were able to accumulate a significant amount of deployable capital for what they need in their lives, or even to have just available later in life. In comparing these two couples today, we see that there was a significant difference between them. And we haven't even talked about the level of investment that could have been made by either one of those couples. However, when we think about the two, one of them had $300,000 in which they accumulated over the course of their 30 working years. The other ended up with somewhere near $1 million that they could have used to deploy toward investment, etc. I don't know about you, but I mean, simple math says the one that has $1 million available, that's in a better situation, or at least seems to be a much better situation than the one that only accumulated a principal amount of $300,000. Again, what somebody does with those investments is up to them. And could that $300,000 have grown significantly? Absolutely, it could have. At the same time, when we think about the infinite banking concept, there's a large proportion of that $1 million that's actually guaranteed, and it was guaranteed to grow over time. So there is some significant difference between the two. And again, this is not financial advice. I'm not giving you or telling you this is exactly what you need to do or how you should do it. There's a lot of nuance, and everyone's situation is unique, and how we can implement this process is unique to each person. But that's where myself and others on the team here at Perfect Spiral Capital, where we specialize. We are able to help you customize a solution that's going to allow you to make these things become a reality in your life and reduce the risk that you're facing from a financial perspective, and allow you to have more capital available as you reach passive income years later on in life. I hope this video was valuable for you today. We were able to see a significant difference between two different hypothetical couples, and hopefully it helps simplify what happens with the infinite banking concept applied in a person's situation. So if this seems like something you're interested in, or you really just want to know more, please check out some of the show notes for links to be able to purchase the book, Becoming Your Own Banker, as well as how you can get into contact with me or others on the team at Perfect Spiral Capital. We'd love to be able to talk to you and help you to take that next step forward in your financial situation. But more than anything else, it's about helping you grow in your understanding so that you can understand the different things that are going on in your world to be able to know what to do. Feel free to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and have a wonderful day.